Fans of the fight game know that the 8 count represents the time that a boxer has to prove that they're ready to rumble again after being knocked down. From Minnesota's Golden Caleb Truax and Lupulin Brewing Company, the 8 count represents a determination to stand up in the face of adversity.
Great music lives here. We are committed to amplifying Minnesota music to keep it independent and influential. Get closer to Minnesota music with The Local Show and The Duluth Local Show, Sunday nights on The Current.
Leading up to my title fight in London in 2017 with James DeGale, I was in a position where I was a little bit down and out. People were counting me out. I just bought a house, I just had a baby, and I was in a tough spot. I had a couple fights fall through, just took a flyer and went over there to London as a 40-1 underdog. Despite being that big of an underdog and everybody writing me off, I was able to overcome the odds and come out with a title belt, and that changed my life forever. At the start of my boxing career, I had to hold down a job because boxing wasn't paying that great, and I just needed it to survive. And I worked for MGM Liquor in Champlin, and I was a craft beer buyer there, and that's where my love of craft beer and all things beer kind of bloomed. First, I was just an ordinary run-of-the-mill type of beer drinker, you know, High Life and MGD, and my palate progressed as I got older. The partnership between Lupul and I started about 4 years ago. When they first opened up, my cousins and some friends of mine would stop in before we went ice fishing, and we got to know Matt and Jeff and the rest of the guys that work here just by sitting at the bar and talking to them and them explaining the beers that they had on tap. And it blossomed from there, and eventually they started being a sponsor of mine. And I had my trunks and my robe had the Lupulin patch on them. I would have my after-fight parties here at the tap room, and one thing led to another, and the next step was to collaborate on a beer, and that's where 8 Count was born. I got to pinch myself sometimes. You know, my buddies still give me crap all the time. Like, the first boxer in history with his own beer. I'm extremely grateful to be in this spot.
We're excited to be presenting 8 Count in the Dabbler in a Box Season 6. We're really showcasing a newer hop variety of Sabro. It's really the signature flavor of the beer. We use a fair bit of mosaic in our custom whirlpool. We actually knock the temperature down in our whirlpool to really get more of that juicy flavor and less of the bitterness. And we dry hop it pretty heavily with Sabro and Eldorado, two really great hops. Sabro has a really unique kind of woody, coconutty character to it that plays really well off the Eldorado. Eldorado is just like a big kind of juicy fruit, and Mosaic, you know, most people probably know, is just a nice, like, all-around kind of berry, punchy, fruity hop, and the three of them just make magic.
When that partnership with 8 Count came about, I was able to go back and help dump stuff into the tank and and be there while the brewers were making it. I didn't realize how scientific it was, how much everything has to be pH balanced and all this crazy stuff. It made me appreciate it more, for sure, you know, and I guess you can kind of draw parallels to brewing beer and boxing along those lines, because it's a science, and so is boxing. You know, there's lots of little subtleties that a layman wouldn't understand unless you are shown it firsthand.
There's a lot of reactions going on. You're dealing with biology and yeast. Obviously, you know, you have a lab and you're doing a lot of science, you know, measurements and things like that as a science side. But at the end of the day, you have to be able to artistically craft a flavor. Really, there's no science metric that you can measure, you know, a good tasting beer. So at the end of the day, there's artistry to it. We always wanted to be hop-forward brewery, obviously, with the name Lupulin, but originally it was, you know, hoppy beers, IPAs and Belgians. That was the goal. Not only that, but to do things the hard way of sorts. Making beer the right way, not taking any shortcuts. Belgian beer of sorts is that, very traditional methods.
I think Lupulin and myself have a lot in common. We're a small guy who has blossomed and worked their way up through the rankings. And I believe Lupulin cuts no corners in making their beers. Obviously, they make great product, they make great beers. And in order to consistently produce like that, you can't cut corners.
One of the things I'm most excited about every year is our Big Beer Week that's coming up in March here. For those of you who don't know, our Big Beer Week it's a week-long event here at the tap room. We release a whole bunch of really cool barrel-aged beers that we've been sitting on throughout the year, and a bunch of different infusions and a lot of bottle releases and festivities around that. Beyond that, we're launching our 6th core brand in April, Tropical Fun Pants. There's going to be a lot of things along with that. It's going to be a pretty heavily fruited beer. Probably around September timeframe, we're going to be doing a mix pack with the 8 count and a limited beer that'll be in that mix pack. It'll be a 4-pack with probably 2 cans of this and 2 cans of 10 count, which will be like an Imperial Black IPA. We're still working on that recipe right now, but we're excited about it. It's a beer style I know that's not giant anymore, but it definitely has its place, and I think we can execute it really well. We're excited to make it. Yeah, we hope you're enjoying the 8 count and Dabbler in a Box Season 6. We look forward to seeing you in our tap room or out in accounts in the future. Cheers.
Cheers.